Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back to our family recovery support group. My name is Craig. I am one of your recovery support coaches. And so today, I'm going to bring a very interesting article. All right. And so today, I'm going to be sharing from this article that I have in front of me. And you can retrieve this article as well if you go online to recoveryranchpa.com. Also, this month is alcohol, alcohol and drug awareness month, addiction awareness month. If I failed to forget that, please forgive me on the last episode. However, September is Addiction Awareness Month. Not alcohol and drug, it's Addiction Awareness Month. All right. And so without further ado, let's get right into the meat and potato. Well, first start off with the title. The title today, you can look on the bottom of the screen and it says, How Substance Abuse Affect Families. All right, how substance abuse affects family. This is our recovery support crew. And so this article starts off by saying, going through weeks, months, or years of drugs or alcohol abuse takes a huge toll on the person suffering from a substance abuse disorder. They need support and care, and they need to give and accept forgiveness from those they love. But how can the people closest to an individual struggling with addiction cope with this new and distressing family dynamic? Relationships change, right? It says often for the worse. When addiction steps into play, the person you know and love may seem like a completely different individual when under the influence of an addiction. And the result is instability in the family unit. Families dealing with addiction aren't just dealing with psychological and emotional turbulence. Being placed under the constant stress of trying to process and understand new and destructive behavior may result in strains on physical health. Two, for children and adults alike. Okay, it says to get a good understanding on how addiction affects the family unit, we have to examine the effects on each part of the family structure. All right, let me read that again. It says to get a good understanding on how addiction affects the family unit, we have to examine the effects on each part of the family structure and how family members may respond to the substance abuse as well as each other. All right, it says family politics are always complicated, but addiction increases the complexities of relationships far beyond what most people know how to deal with. All right, and so not only the person that's being affected, but also everyone in the family unit. This article going to give us some insight on how to examine and how to deal with the family dynamics of someone in the family that's under the influence or who may have developed an addiction, a drug addiction. A lot of times, most people just think about the drugs or substance of marijuana, the hard common drugs, cocaine, and heroin, and fentanyl as the only definition of drugs. And so, but there is a broader definition, and one of them that a lot of times we oftentimes overlook because I guess it's more common or more accessible, and that is alcohol. It has been defined that alcohol is also a drug as well. All right. And so let's go to our first topic of discussion, and that is addiction and the family unit. It starts off by saying, this article, if your family is going through the changes brought on by addiction, you may see some unfamiliar and confusing dynamics begin to arise. Those they may not all arise at the same, it said, though they may not all arise at the same time. Most families undergo 6 marked changes in the case of a family member struggling with addiction. So it says they undergo a 6 marked changes. And so the first mark that this article wants to share with us is number one, parental denial. Okay, parental denial. I know it's kind of hard for most parents to believe, especially when they have suspicion and you and I know. Let me keep it on myself. When I first started out smoking marijuana, and unbeknown, well, I ain't gonna say unbeknown, I would come in the house. I believe I smelled just like marijuana, and I would clearly deny, outright lie when my mother would ask me, "Are you smoking those reefers?" And I would say, "No, I don't smoke no reefer." But that is the drug, the manipulative aspect of the drug itself, where we began to, well, when I began to be in denial. All right. First, I was in denial, and then when I lied that it wasn't me, I'm quite sure my mother had a good inclination that I was smoking marijuana. And so let's see what the article says about parental denial. All right, I shared my aspect. Let's see from the family dynamic of the parent. All right, it says parents as role models tend to deny for as long as possible they or a family member, excuse me, they or a family member have a substance abuse problem. If they themselves are the ones abusing drugs or alcohol, the parent may cling to the idea that it's not that bad or their action won't do that much harm to their children and other family members. In the case of a son or a daughter abusing drugs, a parent may feel this couldn't possibly be true. We're talking about parental denial. All right. After all, substance abuse can only be the result of bad parenting, right? It's important for parents to remember this isn't the case. And denying the existence of an addiction problem will only allow the problem to persist. All right. And so there's 6 topics or 6, it says mark, where we're going to say 6 entities that we want to talk about when it comes to addiction and the family unit. All right. And some of the dynamics that parents or the family unit face. Number 2, we went over number 1 was parental denial. Number 2, parental inconsistency. This manifests as a lack of structure in the family, leading to erratic rule setting and enforcement, and often leads children to act out as an attempt to decline unclear boundaries. In children and young adults, a lack of consistent reaction and consequences to behaviors results in confusion that may delay or unravel emotional development in the long run. Parental inconsistencies is equally damaging when the parent is the substance abuser as when the son or daughter is the one struggling. Either way, the child is worse off for not receiving the behavior scaffolding they need to grow as an individual. Negativism. All right. That's the third aspect of addiction and the family unit. All right. And so that is at some point the stress of tiptoeing around addiction. Right. The stress of tiptoeing around addiction. As so many families do, catches up, and the atmosphere surrounding family dealings take up an unmistakable air of negativity. The tide will turn, and mounting feelings of distrust may result in constant criticism, complaint, and other expressions of negativity. While all positive occurrences may get swept under the rug, for kids, this often means the only way to get attention is to initiate crisis, which may lead to a downward spiral of intentional inflammatory behavior. Uh, All right. Number four, misdirection of anger. With all these feelings flying, it can be extremely difficult for family members to properly process these negative emotions. The lack of emotional tools available may result in children or parents funneling their resentment and anger into inappropriate channels such as further substance abuse or other harmful behavior. All right. And so I just covered four of the addiction and the family unit perspective. And number five, unrealistic expectations. All right. This article says when parents are addicted to substances, it's often becomes the case that expectations are skewed either positively or negatively, but in either case, don't bear much resemblance to reality. Parents of an individual struggling with addiction may create a hopeless situation for their son or daughter by dropping the bar for achievement through the floor and thereby eliminating the drive and support necessary for success. On the other hand, children whose parents struggle with addiction may choose to overcompensate in school, sports, or another pursuit due to the feeling that nothing will ever be good enough. It's important to remember addiction is one aspect of reality, but shouldn't overhaul all expectations going forward. And lastly, number six, we're still talking about the addiction and the family unit, different perspective in this, and we covered five thus far. The first one was parental denial. Second one was parental inconsistency. Third was negativism. Four, misdirection of anger. And number five, I just read and shared was unrealistic expectation. All right, number six talks about self-medication. This is a big one. This is a big one, but I have some thoughts on that. However, I want to see what the article says. All right, and that is all the dynamics listed above can prove overwhelming to any family, even in the best of circumstances. An unfortunate fact is when people deal with extended periods of stress, depression, and anxiety may arise as a natural consequence. Sadly, many individuals choose to treat this natural symptom by unnatural means, often more drugs or alcohol. What began as an isolated case of substance abuse in a family may spread more quickly than most would like to admit. In fact, people whose parents struggle with addiction are 3 to 4 times more likely to deal with addiction themselves. Let me read that again, because I think that is worth repeating or reading. It says, this article says, in fact, people whose parents struggle with addiction are 3 to 4 times more likely to deal with addiction themselves. That's why it's so vital to enlist the help of a substance abuse and addiction expert, okay, to help get your family back on track once addiction starts rearing its head. All right. And so I think when we talk about family unit, I don't think no one is exempt from getting involved in the addiction, whether it be the parent or when I say get involved, I mean getting help in the process of getting a loved one healthier, and that it doesn't exempt a parent or the child. I think we all, if we are in that cycle of addiction, should seek professional expertise. All right. And so we always suggest that. And so I think because I am someone with an addiction and I had to go through the process of learning about my addiction and what were some of the things that uh, I, what were some of the things uh, that I could identify for the reason why I was using drugs. And so a lot of it I learned about some of the uh, some of the I want to get it right. I had to identify some of the mechanism or some of the triggers or cravings and urges that I was dealing with. But later on, I understand that it went a little deeper, and that was through the trauma aspect of whether I witnessed it single-handedly or I witnessed it just by visualizing. And so that is something that I believe some underlying issues that we may be dealing with, and that if we don't address that aspect of our addiction or our behavioral process, then we may uh, be doing ourselves a disservice. All right, so the next topic of discussion I want to share with everyone, and that is how families can recover together. Okay? As complex as addiction is for one person, things get even murkier when the family unit is involved. Though many families have basic tools for coming together and working things out on a normal basis, most have no clue how to proceed when addiction is in place. This is primarily because addiction and its subsequent behavior patterns completely defy rationality. Most people approach family matters with the mind that family is the highest rung on the priority ladder, but addiction turns that notion on its head. Chemical dependency happens when the brain's reward circuitry is overloaded multiple times by drugs or alcohol. These substances cause so much activity in the areas of the brain that processes rewards that normal and necessary stimuli, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, and socializing, take a back seat to drug abuse when it comes to prioritizing. Okay? All right. And so I'm a witness. I know that through experience. And so I won't add to that. Let that speak for itself. This article goes further to state, for this reason, it's incredibly difficult to get to a family member who is addicted. They've simply been rewired by drugs or alcohol to respond minimally or not at all to things they used to view as high priority. So drugs begin to take precedent over our behavior. This article says, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, and socializing. All right. And so uh, that's why families with a drug or alcohol dependent member should really consider enlisting the services of a trained intervention specialist to help guide them through the intensity of an intervention. All right. And so goes on to say about 10% of Americans have recovered from addiction, and recovery has the best chance of success when the family is involved and supportive from the get-go. All right. And so it talks to go a little further. It says, so follow these basic steps to intervention for your family member. I'm gonna go through each and every last one of them. And these steps consist of 7 steps. I'm gonna start out with step number 1. Step number 1 talks about gather friends and family. Before you do anything, it's necessary to gather everyone of importance in the act's life. This is usually family and a few close friends. Work with the group to form a plan of action. Who will speak in what order and what they would say. Try to envision how the person will react and discuss how you would take those reactions and strive for a productive intervention. Number two, consult a mental health professional. All right. Once you have formed your task force and have a good idea of what you'd like to say and achieve, take your plan to a licensed therapist or intervention specialist. They will be able to help you eliminate ineffective aspects and bulk up the effective parts of your strategy, as well as rehearse the intervention beforehand to work out any kinks. Step number three, choose an appropriate location. We're talking about how families can recover together. Step three says choose an appropriate location. It's vitally important you pick a location where the person will feel safe. In many cases, families choose their own home or the home of someone extremely close to the person. Interventions don't work if you can't make the person feel safe. So their comfort and security are of the utmost importance when choosing a place to hold yours. All right. Step number four: ask the person to confirm there's a problem. All right. So one of the things, first step I've learned, first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem, that I have a problem. All right. And that is the first step towards recovery, by recognizing that I can't do it on my own. This stuff is really getting the best of me. It's getting out of control. It's causing grave consequences. So I need to work on getting some help immediately. Okay. And so it said, ask a person to confirm there's a problem. The whole point of an intervention is to get the subject to admit there's a problem with their continued substance abuse. The mistake many groups make is trying to force accusation onto the person they're trying to help. Even if the group is right about what they're saying, the goal is to work with the person the intervention is aimed at. You don't want to back them into a corner and force a confession, right? Instead, you want to show them admitting to their problem, right? Admitting to their problem is beneficial to the family as a whole, including themselves, all right? Step number five, present meaningful consequences. Denial is a powerful integral aspect of addiction. That means that their destructive behavior, even in spite of the natural consequence. Wow. Interventions are meant to jolt the person out of their addictive fog and back into rationality. You can do this by coming up with a list of fair and significant consequences you and the group will implement if the person continues on their current path of substance abuse. For an example, a partner or spouse might make it known if the substance abuse continues, the person will forfeit their right to visitation or custody of their child, right? Step number six, go on to say, offer immediate, not tomorrow, not later, not next week, offer immediate treatment, all right? Immediate treatment. The end goal of an intervention is to get the person to accept treatment. Even if they admit to their addiction, they may not want to go to rehab. Okay? So having a plan in hand to present can greatly boost your chances of getting through to your family member. Contact a reputable contact a reputable drug and alcohol rehab center and get the specifics on their drug and alcohol rehab programs so you can answer all the questions your loved ones has without giving them the time to reconsider and back out of the treatment they need. All right. So be proactive. This article is talking about being proactive, not reacting, but being proactive. All right. And step number 7, end on a positive note. All right. We want to end on a positive note. If we want to help our loved ones, all right, recover. And it says, it may be difficult to retain positivity when you're in the process of an intervention, but it's still a very important aspect of fostering successful recovery. Take the time to verbally reinforce the group support of the addicted person and make sure they really understand how proud you are they're making hard decisions and taking tough steps that will eventually lead to a happy and healthy family life. All right. And so that is 7 steps that I just covered that deals with how families can recover together. The next topic of discussion, and that is families participating in treatment. A single look at most substance abuse counseling programs would tell you there's one thing missing from the equation for success: family involvement. Okay? The ranch, all right, and so it says, one must understand removing an individual from their family for an extended period of time is more likely to hurt than help the recovery process. So the substance abuse treatment program embraces, right? The substance abuse treatment program embraces the participation of families in the individual treatment through a number of integrated program features. Next, we want to talk about, I hope this is some vital information that one can utilize if they have a loved one or a friend that's in the stages of addiction, all right? Next topic of discussion, updates and interaction, all right? It says, it's stressful on everyone to be deprived of contact with family members. So clients in treatment have the option to have regular updates on therapy progress sent directly to their family. When the family knows about progress and changes in treatment, it makes it easier to grow and adjust with the process, so everyone on the same page of recovery. The program even encourages family interaction through regular phone calls, on-site visits, and special events. All right. That's the aspect of updates and interaction while your loved ones in recovery. Getting the family involved, that's the whole gist of this article. And it says, the title is How Substance Abuse Affect Families. All right, and this is our recovery support group. Next, we want to talk about Family Day. All right, Family Day. So I think if most facilities have what they call family days, right? And so that is something, whether you can do that once they come out of rehab or if the facility is offering that as well. And then we want to cover family counseling. Just as therapy is necessary for addicted individuals to unpack and understand their substance abuse baggage, it's essential for families in order to understand the changes in their lives and how to move forward in a healthy and constructive manner, right? It says by bringing families to their loved ones in treatment is a uniquely inclusive environment where individuals can recover with the ongoing support of their families. Family therapy encourages each member of the unit to speak up about concerns they may not otherwise feel safe or properly equipped to voice. Though it isn't without its share of painful moments and tension, laying everything out on the table with guidance of a clinical professional is the surest way forward for a family torn apart by drug abuse and addiction. So this article expressed that family counsel is vital. Should be something that we embrace as a family so that we can get a better understanding on the process and the progress that the family or loved one is making, all right, while in treatment. And hopefully there is a continual after plan. And so that will consist of recovery together, all right? Addiction is a disease that often goes hand in hand with isolation. Withdrawing from friends and family is a defense mechanism that allows denial to remain intact and for the individual to maintain the delusion that what they're doing to themselves and others isn't too dire of a situation. However, isolation is also one of the biggest predictors of failure and recovery. That's why most aftercare programs provide a focus on creating a support network for life after rehab. That is so true. For many individuals, family can prove to be one of the most invaluable sources of support available, but only if the family is willing to play an active role in the person's recovery. That's why it's vital to enroll in a program that values the input and participation of family members in a person's recovery. Ultimately, the ultimate goal is to help you and your family find your way to recovery together through family therapy and activities that encourage family bonding and continual education. If you're ready to take the next steps to beating your addiction, it's time to make the call. All right. And so that is it for us on this week, dealing with uh, family issues, dealing with addiction, as the title says, how substance abuse affects the family. And so we just cover a great deal on different avenues. And so if you know someone who is struggling with alcohol addiction, drug addiction, please encourage them to get immediate help. All right. And so this article make mention about interventions and strategies and ways how we all can come together and find out a best plan for the individual. All right. And so I hope this information has been helpful. And if so, please tune on to us next week as we come on every 5:30 on Tuesday afternoon, and we share volumes of information like these. All right. Until the next time, take care. Stay safe. My name is Craig. I'll see you on the next one.